Hi guys, as we speak, there's lots going on in the world right now, a lot of cognitive shift, a lot of emotional shift that contribute to a lot of frequency shifts, not to mention a lot of planetary shifts. In 2020 only, we have 6 eclipses happening. Usually there are only 4. So all these shifts create energies, they create a lot of tension, and it's only going to get more intense as we approach the rest of the world, the end of the 2020. So let's talk about those shifts a little bit in terms of what it entails when it comes to our frequencies, and also what are the ways in which we could actually use those frequencies to our benefits. Before doing that, let's go a little bit into electrical engineering field. Since we're all electricity and right now we're creating a lot of it, we might as well try to understand it in terms of electricity and how much we're actually producing right now. If you remember how you calculate electricity or power, I should say, P equals IV, where P is power, I is the current, and V is the voltage. When it comes to the brain and the way in which it creates electricity, essentially it starts with action potential, which is a shift in terms of its power and currency within the neurons. And as a result, it creates these electrical shifts. At any point in time, you can measure both the currency of that electricity as well as the voltage, and multiplying those, you can calculate the power of the neurons within the brain at every moment in time. The frequency of each neuron has been calculated to be about 1 nanoamp, and the voltage of it is about 105 millivolt. Now, if you believe in how they've counted the number of neurons that we have in the brain, you need to multiply that to 800 million neurons, because that is what the brain is made up of. And if you end up doing the calculation, which I was doing this morning, essentially you come up with a little bit less than 1 watt, which is 1 watt of a power at any point in time from your brain. And this is from your brain only at one point in time, at any point in time, if you are also in a normal emotional state. So you can only imagine that the voltage and or the currency increases or decreases depending on the level of chaotic events we're going through, the level of emotions that we're feeling. So it all really fluctuates. Now, add that all up when, let's say, you're out there protesting or you're in a big crowd. You can only imagine the magnitude of the electricity it's being fired throughout everything, and people also on top of that might be emotional, angry, frustrated, and even violent. And so you can only imagine the magnitude of this thing. Now, all this electricity creates EMF, electromagnetic field around it. That's just the way it is. We know that. We are able to measure it, as you already know, and it's every single science basically talk about it. So although we don't see it, it exists just because we have devices and we can measure them. But it's really interesting, and it's very important to think about the fact that we don't see it, but we do see a lot of it in terms of the behavior of people. Sometimes you've noticed that even if there is no physical action is being made, there's still the tension adds up, And that is mainly thanks to all these EMFs that are going around everybody. Now, to that, let's add all the events that are occurring, all these governors that are making decisions, to many of us, surprising decisions, all these behavior that all these riots and protesters are exhibiting. And also, if you're on Twitter or any other social media, you can also see that a lot of people are edgy and they are emotional. And so all of that add up to this tension. So there is no wonder that it just creates this momentum that could go on and build up and up and up and up. And as we move forward more towards the end of the year, it's just going to add up. So it has a potential of being extremely explosive. In addition to all of this, there's also a lot of planetary shifts that are happening. 6 eclipses just for 2020. Lunar and solar eclipse. We had one yesterday, which was June 4th or 5th. We have one coming up June 21st, and we have one coming up July 4th. So there are a lot of them are back to back. Again, even if you do not believe in energies or planetary shifts, I should say, these are masses of planets that are doing a lot of shifts, and as a result they're also creating a lot of EMFs, a lot of energies that also we are experiencing on Earth, every single one of us. So you can only imagine the magnitude of energy and EMFs that are going around, not only within us, but also around us, and also the type of momentum that they all seem to add to one another. One's reaction could be somebody else's reaction, and then it has all these snowball effect. And so because of that, just being aware and knowing of what's going on will help a lot of us going through whatever is about to come, because not only the planetary shifts will just add up to this energy, but so will everything that is going on around the world, and especially in the US, about all these decisions that are being made. So it's going to be a pretty interesting roller coaster now, from now until the end of 2020. But there is a way for each and every one of us to prepare. A lot of people are preparing, for example, in terms of food shortage and safety and security and all that, and that's fantastic. But also another way that we can prepare is for us to prepare mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So those people who have faith, any type of spirituality, tend to do a little bit better during the time of chaos, because whatever it is, whether it exists or not, the fact that they believe it, that they have a belief system, that they have belief in something, will help them, whatever that belief is. We don't need to accept or reject it, but the fact that it is part of their character and part of their belief system, it's very helpful. Another way in which to help is these conversations that we're having in terms of understanding our bodies, understanding our brain, understanding our cells, understanding how cognitively humans are wired to react to certain things, and also understanding how to interpret those actions and reactions. All of that adds to the knowing of where we're at, which also adds more to the body of knowledge of yourself, of what you know to be true, about your body, but also about your mind and about everything else. So that's also another huge step that we can take towards this. Another huge way to also help is to make sure that we pay attention to the food we're eating, to make sure that we are listening to our bodies. There is no cookie cutter, in my opinion, for anything. If somebody loves celery and that works for them, great, but somebody else might love watermelon. What do I know? Or candies. Don't eat too much candies because that's sugar. But what I'm trying to say is that really listening to the body, and also making sure that you have the nutrition, you have the supplements that will give you the optimum level of energy and also healing, so that we can together move through this upcoming explosions, hopefully a little bit more seamlessly. From time to time, I drop some knowledge about how the brain works, especially when I see somebody tweet something that maybe there's an explanation at the psychology and cognitive level about that. And reading articles about that helps as well, because knowing why certain things happen in terms of physical and mental and emotional way in which we react and other people react, a lot of times that knowledge puts us in a more peaceful mode, just because we kind of get it. We're like, okay, I understand why that happens. Not that we do it to forgive, because I know a lot of people are really angry and they just want to lash out. Fine, but it will help you to maneuver this a little bit better. The brain and the body, they work in a mysterious way. I love studying them because they always put me at awe and respect. And so it's not always that we can understand everything about it, but that's the beauty of it, because it just gives us more room to try to learn from it, to try to understand it. And I believe, for myself at least, that this whole 2020 thing with all this misery and all this horrible stuff that have been happening, it's teaching me a lot more than I was learning about myself and about everything else. So we can easily use these horrible time to learn more about ourselves and our brain. And I have to admit that I see a huge cognitive shift in most people I interact with. It appears that majority are actually more interested in learning about not only themselves, but also about the world and everything that is around them. And that is huge. And that's why we have a lot of frequency shifts, because of all these cognitive shifts. And that is one of the major positive things about this whole pandemic thing, although much of it has been awful. But if we want to look at the positive side, that part is going to help us a lot to improve and evolve as humans. Elevated consciousness in any form or shape is always beneficial. Those who keep in the past or keep adding to the violence or choose the other route tend to not evolve as much. And so as a result, we just become a much better human beings. And we need that. We need more good people. We need more people with consciousness, with good conscience, with a solid, healthy level of critical thinking. And so that's why it's extremely powerful to keep evolving and to keep learning. So I hope this was of interest to you guys. Thanks again for listening. I see you next time.